Alright guys, I regret to inform you that every video that I had that I was planning on posting that was on the old computer was unfortunately lost. So, my apologies. I had intended to get up a bunch of really good videos for you guys, and it looks like I'm going to have to go back through and redo them all. It's going to be a lot of time and work, but figured I'd do kind of a question and answer video and just kind of like a, I don't know, just a demonstration video on the different technologies you can use, what materials you can use. So, first off, I just want to get this out of the way. I know a lot of you guys have asked questions about how to make the controller operate the robots the way I did. And it's been kind of a while. I know you probably remember this setup from my videos. Spectrum DX6, kind of a little bit older technology as of right now, but still up to standard with what they allow in the robotics competitions. It's 2.4 gigahertz system, which means you will have no controller interference from radio to radio. If somebody else switches theirs on midway through a fight, you're not going to have the thing go crazy and come chomping at your ankles, which that's always a big issue, the safety there. As you can see, I run 2.4 gigahertz on everything I have. This is kind of a cheaper setup that I've got right here, but really gets the job done. I was rather impressed with this company when I got it. I bought this car right here with that radio system. That's a tactic radio system. I have not had any problems with it so far. I'm very pleased with them. A little bit lighter than I had expected, and then when I opened it up I found out, oh wait, it only runs off of 4 batteries, which is different from the regular 2749 setup that they usually do for on-road vehicles. So, like I said, 2.4 gig, that's definitely the way to go if you like being in control of your vehicle at all times and not having to worry about other people hopping in there, driving your stuff. Now, the channel mixing, you guys, easiest way for me to describe this to you is you need to go onto the website for the manufacturer that makes your remote, because every single one of them is different. DX6 to DX7, that has changes too. It's just the addition of one more channel for you to go ahead and throw something on there. But the way you get to those menus is a little bit different. I know on this one, if you're wanting to change the model, you have to push both of these up and flip the system on. And then while the system is on, you can also flip both of these up or down, and that'll take you to different menus as far as how to assign the channels. One other thing that I did look into doing that I think you guys would probably get a kick out of if you ever go for this sort of a setup is, if you notice on these, the right stick is completely spring tensioned in every direction, so no matter where you put it, it's always going to go back to neutral. Now on this side, which the left I use for my weapons primarily, you can see that it does not sit completely in the center, and this is just basically on a slide here, and that's normally for the throttle for like an airplane or a helicopter. Now, one of the things I looked into is you can actually go ahead, and if you don't like the fact that this stick does this and you're into like the old Tyco cars or anything like that, if you've got old memories from your childhood, you can go ahead and order another one of these sticks right here with the full spring neutralization and throw it in over here. They are completely interchangeable. I did not know that until I got a little bit more into the idea of doing that, and that might be something that I do here maybe within the next few videos. I'm not really sure though, because I don't particularly need it. I'm comfortable driving just off this stick and having this one for my weapon and self-righting mechanism, that sort of thing. So, like I said, again, if you're wondering how to mix the controls on there, I believe the one I used on here was referred to as the Delta Wing mix, because the Delta Wings only have 2 servos controlling the entire airplane. And so if you can imagine just a single wing with a motor on it, that's pretty much what you're trying to program it to. You're only needing to use 2 servos for the powering. And that brings us back to this. This is kind of an upgraded version of the frying pan that we did a few videos back. I've still got, this was the prototype platform here. I have had a few of them since then. Went with a little bit thicker of a pan. This one is kind of still in the works. I'm being lazy lately, guys. I apologize. I got rid of a few of these. Actually made some money off of them. So basically, yeah, what I was talking about on here is when you're trying to do the programming. You can see, if it ever will zoom correctly, and I don't think it's going to. Anyway, on there it actually has the name of every channel, and on this particular setup I've got it set for aileron and elevator channels, and those are both the right stick on that remote. That's what allowed me to have both of these wheels move either simultaneously same direction or opposite of each other. So, yeah, looks a little familiar, doesn't it? Alright, so moving on then, I also want to talk about battery technology. You guys have asked me a lot of questions about that, and I do apologize for not getting back to every single one of you. I've got a few different types of batteries here that not all of them are Robot League sanctioned, but for home use they should be just fine. Just make sure you're running at the correct voltages and not overdrawing anything, because these lithiums at times can be a little temperamental. That's a nickel metal hydride. Those are probably the easiest to deal with the exception of charging. I know NiCads are a little bit more simple. They're not quite as finicky. Lithiums are going to be far more finicky. You need to make sure that you have a special charger for them. This is the one I use. I've had this one for several years. Used it when I was flying airplanes and helicopters, and it's been good to me, so never ever had an issue with it. Was relatively inexpensive when I got it. If you go for a little bit more of an expensive unit, they come with a battery balancer in them, which what that means is on these batteries here, the lithiums, they are comprised of multiple cells. This right here is a 3-cell. And this little plug that you have over here, it's got 4 wires coming out of it. You plug that into a battery balancer, and what it'll do is make sure that each cell is charged to the same voltage, and you're not going to be having any sort of issue with one cell getting drawn more than the other and potentially causing a fire. I've had a few friends that have lost entire garages due to improper charging procedures, so make sure that when you are charging these batteries, if you get into doing lithiums, you are very careful. I recommend getting a bag of sand or something like that, put them in a clay pot, just something that is not flammable, because if they do catch on fire, good luck putting them out unless you've got like the entire fire brigade standing right behind you, because these things shoot flames a couple feet sometimes depending on the battery you got. It's the worst thing in the world to have to see somebody lose that much money, all that time, all that effort, and insurance just say, oh, well, yeah, we're not going to cover that because, yeah. All right, so this is a racing pack out of an RC car. This is also a lithium, and one of the things that's kind of cool about these is they come in a hard plastic case, unlike the other two that are sitting right here. Those are just regular, like plastic wrapped 3-cell. And I think this one's a 2-cell. That one actually runs in that car. But the bigger the battery that you get, the longer usually they're going to last. And one thing that I'm going to tell you though is they do not always give you more performance, more power, that sort of thing. What you have to look for are the numbers on the battery. Basically, this one here has a 30-cell burst rating. This one here has a 50-cell burst rating. That's a sizable difference, but at the same time, you're just compromising the fact that you can run this one for a little bit longer. Now, another question that I had on my channel was, what's the compatibility of those batteries with electronic systems, motors, receivers, speed controls, that sort of thing? I can basically tell you, you can use any style of battery with any style of transmitter, receiver, speed controller, motor combination. All you have to do is make sure that the numbers on your battery match up to the peak performance ratings on your other electronics. Because if you're running a battery that, say, is going to push your motor 100 RPMs past what its optimal driving level is, you're going to have issues with that motor. If that's just at, say, like just the normal performance, not even the burst rate on that battery, you're going to burn up that motor really quickly, potentially blow up your speed controller, and that's just going to be money wasted. I've had it happen. Mismarked merchandise. Always do your homework. So yeah, here's another thing for you guys. The different types of motors and speed controllers. I don't actually, oh yes I do. We'll go over here first. On this car here, this is running a completely brushless setup with that 2.4 system like I told you. Very quick. Thing gets up a little over 60. Probably a little more if I run the bigger battery on it, but I haven't done that yet because I need to modify the mounts over on the side. And I'm not talking the black one over there. I'm talking I got a bigger version of that little blue one. But basically, the difference you're going to have on these motor speed controller setups, this brushless system right here is going to have 3 wires going from the motor to the speed controller. That's a brushless system. Here's a better look. See, 3 wires. Versus on a brushed system, you're only going to have 2 wires. And that's just a difference in drive type. It's not a huge ordeal. I prefer brushless. That's just something I've gone with over the years. Always had a good time with it. Brushed systems, they can be equally as good. I wouldn't actually say equally though, because that's not entirely true. They're better for certain things, not so much for others. I've had probably worse luck with brushed systems than I have brushless, but then again I'm running way too much power for most of these brush systems. I had a few RC cars a while back that I converted from brush to brushless, and just night and day difference, you guys. You're going to absolutely love it if you go with a brush system, or a brushless system, sorry. So, over here, I know there were some questions regarding what can I build my robot out of? What did you use to build your robot? What did this person use? What did that person use? You guys, the beauty of building robots is you can use absolutely anything you want. If you have a vision, go for it. I don't recommend using a glass bowl to make your robot, just because that is not gonna last very long in a combat ring. But right here, this is basically a second version of what the frying pan robot was made from. I had a bunch of these. We're getting down to the last of my inventory now for these. This was actually a floppy disk drive mount, and we had a bunch of computer towers back at the house where I originally lived, and those were easily accessible for us because those computers were breaking all the time and we were constantly upgrading because my family owned a business. And so I could just basically go out into our dumping area for these that was behind our house, kind of out in our storage barn area, and go ahead and pull parts off there if I ever needed them. This one right here is actually the mount for a CD deck in a car, so basically just like a aftermarket radio, and that's just the mount that you use on there. One of the things you can do with this is, depending on how yours is made, if you decide to go with something like this, in the bottom, maybe just do a couple slits where you'd want your wheels to come out, and you could have a completely enclosed cage, like an exoskeleton for your robot, that's going to prevent, say, someone's axe or hammer from immediately crushing whatever you've got underneath there. Now, obviously, not the strongest to begin with, but if you build it up a little bit with, say, some strip aluminum, like just a bar stock type of thing, that'll be plenty strong. It'll still be lightweight, and you've got plenty of room to jam all this electronic equipment in there. Maybe not if you put that battery, but I'm sure you can make it fit depending on what you're doing with it. Okay. So those are the kind of more out of the ordinary things for you. Now, a lot of you have asked, can I convert an RC car over to being a robot? Well, you guys, it depends on the RC car. It depends on what kind of robot. There are plenty of components on an RC car that you can take off, and absolutely you could put them on a robot. One of my favorite things is I like using the wheels. Now, a lot of this is really brittle plastic, and one hit from a hammer, you're done. I'm sure some of you have probably dropped these off the roof of your house, out the window, off the porch, driven them over a curb. They break. They're cheap. You really should probably go with something a little bit stronger, but definitely you could use the wheels. You can use the motors depending on what they are. I know this was an upgradable car, so the motor was a little bit better than what you'll get in, say, just like a cheap store-bought brand. This was midway to a hobby brand. I wouldn't even call it a hobby brand quite yet. They are upgradable, though. Now, when you get into cars like these, sure, go for it. Take whatever you want off of them. Going to give you the same result as using one of those. Just because you're paying more for the initial car doesn't mean that the parts are going to be that much better for combat. I revert back to the wheels. These wheels are far better. They're still going to get chewed up once in a while. They're still going to break. They are still expensive. Now, the thing I like about them, though, is instead of like your cheap store-bought brand, if you could see that right there, that's just God right there. That you can't have a better setup for your wheels than that design, to have that little hub. The hole going through, put the little nut on the inside, pop the wheel on, and you can mount this to just about anything. It's just basically you're putting that little hex nut onto a shaft of like a gearbox, kind of like what I have going on with this motor here. Okay, there's a shaft coming out. There's a gear that side mounts to the actual motor gear. Now, that's going to slow you down a little bit from what your top speed could be, but it will also give you a lot better torque. I do apologize for the quality of this video. I'm filming it through my phone because I'm kind of being a retard, but I was lazy today. Thought I'd give you guys a video. So for the quality, I apologize, but you're getting a video. I don't know that there's much more to talk about. I mean, like I said, you can build a robot out of just about anything. Let your imagination do all the work, and then just get it down on paper if you like doing that. Do a CAD version of it. Find all the parts, throw them together. Landing gear is kind of a good alternative to wheels and tires as well. A little bit less expensive than buggy tires. Not near as much grip, though. One more note on batteries. One of the cool things about the NiCads and nickel metal hydrides, when you get stick packs like this, sometimes a cell will go bad. You can just replace a cell as long as you get it matched. Another really cool thing is because of the way these are designed, all you have to do is go in here with like an X-Acto knife, cut in between these cells, since they're basically just batteries. I'm not even kidding you guys. They're pretty much just a bigger version of your normal AAA, AA, just different shape. The 9 volt there, because you can run smaller robots off of the 9 volt as long as you've got them all running the correct voltage as far as what the rest of your robot is capable of using. If you're running smaller electronics, usually those aren't going to work too well, and you might just want to maybe use a couple single cell versions of these. It'll get you almost the same result. But again, configuration on these is kind of cool. You can cut them apart, maybe turn them into like a more of a block style battery to maybe be more that size versus this big honker here. When you're getting into these more expensive batteries that have the hard cases on them, these plugs are removable, so you can have just like quick access pins instead of having to remove like the Dean's connectors, which I use. I do recommend these, by the way, over every other connector I've ever used in my life, just because of the fact that they're consistently in contact with each other. I've never had one fail. I know I've heard people have them fail, but I don't know what they were doing wrong, because it's always been good for me. But better connection, you're going to have better performance, less finicky than these connectors. I absolutely hate these. They are a pain. They hurt your fingers when you're trying to take them apart sometimes. But the bullet connectors are fine for the motors and speed controllers. hope that answered some of your guys' questions. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, rate, comment, subscribe, share, the whole bit. I'll have hopefully a couple new videos for you here pretty soon. Like I said, I got to re-record everything. We're going on 20 minutes right now, so I'll go ahead and cut this video short and get you guys up with this video.